Have you ever observed that the most influential individuals in a room are often the quietest? That the sharpest negotiator holds back their words, and the most effective leaders don't feel the need to justify their choices? This isn't a coincidence. It's based on an age-old principle crafted by the brilliant strategist Niccolò Machiavelli over 500 years ago, and it remains a secret wielded by the powerful today. In this video, you won't be taught how to speak, but rather how to refrain from speaking at key moments when others are sabotaging themselves with their words. People are judged by what they reveal with their eyes, not their actions. Keep your plans hidden until they have come to fruition. This is where the concept of strategic silence comes into play, one of the most potent influence tactics known to humanity. While most people are busy vocalizing their intentions, flaunting their ideas, and exposing their strategies, a select few understand that true power doesn't stem from constant chatter, but from knowing when to remain silent. These individuals don't rush to show off. Instead, they recognize the strength in silence and know how to wield it as a powerful tool. Niccolò Machiavelli, the renowned Florentine thinker and politician of the 16th century, was deeply acquainted with this concept. He grasped it with a level of understanding that was ahead of his era. Though best known for his candid and often harsh counsel in The Prince, some of his most profound wisdom revolved around the importance of silence and the art of knowing what to withhold, rather than merely what to express. Machiavelli once remarked, "The public is deceived by appearances," highlighting how people often judge based on what is said and shown, rather than the true essence of a situation. Words shape perceptions, but silence maintains the integrity of reality. In today's world where online sharing, open communication, and nonstop chatter dominate, silence is a skill that has been largely forgotten. However, those who master this art don't just survive, they thrive. They protect not only their position and accomplishments, but also secure what incessant talkers fail to achieve: a quiet yet commanding presence in a world that never stops talking. Strategic silence allows individuals to not only avoid harm, but also gain profound insights and wield greater influence. They emerge victorious. In the past, especially during Machiavelli's time, a single misstep in speech could cost you everything: a loss of status, banishment, or even death. Speaking openly wasn't a privilege, it was a peril. While today's consequences may be less severe, the risks of rash words are still significant. Ill-chosen statements can expose your intentions, unravel your strategies, and restrict your options, unlike the freedom of silence offers. As Machiavelli put it, people judge more by their eyes than by their hands. Most individuals focus on appearances, not the substance beneath. Those who speak too freely open themselves to superficial judgments, while those who choose silence preserve their depth and hidden meaning. Let's break down this cost into three aspects. First, speaking creates obligations. When you make your intentions known, you're committed in the eyes of those listening. If you later change your mind, you'll be seen as indecisive or inconsistent. Silence, on the other hand, allows you to change course without damaging your reputation or trustworthiness. Those who keep their plans to themselves face no consequences when they alter their position later. Second, speaking reveals your mindset. Explaining your actions or reasoning exposes your thought process, logic, and limitations. This information, even if seemingly harmless, can be used by others to predict, manipulate, or deceive you. As Machiavelli noted, the best way to gauge a ruler's intelligence is by examining the company he keeps. Likewise, a good way to assess your strategic skills is to observe how much you unnecessarily disclose. Third, excessive talking diminishes the power of mystery and awe. Constantly explaining yourself reduces your image to one of predictability and exposes you as someone who no longer inspires intrigue or respect. As Machiavelli put it, "It is better to be feared than loved." The type of fear he means is not fear of violence, but fear born from mystery. The leader who feels the need to explain every action, justify every decision, and detail every thought becomes just another person. And no one fears an ordinary person, no matter how powerful they are. Silence, however, cultivates mystery, making your presence more profound, your words more rare, and your influence lasting. For instance, an employee who voices their opinion in every meeting, even when it's outside their area of expertise, risk diminishing their trustworthiness over time. A friend who constantly posts every detail of their day on social media diminishes the sense of surprise and intrigue. A negotiator who can't handle pauses and fills the silence with concessions forfeits their advantage before negotiations even begin. A leader who reacts to every criticism inadvertently gives more power to their detractors and undermines their reputation among their team by staying silent. In these cases, it's not about stepping back entirely, but rather using silence as a strategic tool to guide the conversation without uttering a word. The three forms of strategic silence. Strategic silence goes beyond just not speaking. It's a subtle form of communication that adapts based on the context and objective. Far from being a sign of weakness, silence was seen by Machiavelli as a sophisticated tactic. Rather than a passive absence, he regarded silence as a powerful tool for leadership and control, often more effective than spoken words. Drawing from his profound understanding of human behavior, Machiavelli identified three key types of strategic silence, each employed in different circumstances with precision. The first type is silence used for gathering information. According to Machiavelli, the fool speaks without delay, exposing himself while learning nothing. In contrast, the wise person remains silent, using this pause to gain an advantage. This form of silence serves the purpose of acquiring knowledge. While others speak, they inadvertently reveal their thoughts, plans, and vulnerabilities. Stay silent, observe, and piece together a complete understanding of the situation without offering anything in return. This principle is clearly evident in negotiations. The person who speaks first loses. Why? Because the first speaker defines the terms, discloses their goals, and gives the other party a chance to react and adapt. On the other hand, the one who remains quiet maintains control over the rhythm of the conversation. In personal relationships, the listener often gains more insight than the one doing the talking. In competitive environments, revealing your strategy too soon can restrict your options and strip away the element of surprise. In this context, silence becomes a strategic form of intelligence. Secondly, silence enhances authority. Silence not only shields, but also commands respect. As Machiavelli stated, a ruler must embody both the fox and the lion. The fox evades traps, while the lion instills fear. A key element of the fox's cleverness is knowing when to remain quiet. When you speak sparingly, your words gain weight and significance, especially when used at pivotal moments. By addressing criticism only when absolutely necessary, you project not tension, but confidence. This highlights the contrast between someone constantly speaking out of nervousness, attempting to convince others, and someone who speaks less but with strong purpose. The leader doesn't feel the need to extend their words. A single, clear decision speaks volumes. A great leader doesn't feel compelled to explain every choice, but simply makes it and stands by it in silence. Similarly, a powerful politician avoids reacting immediately, allowing others to make their move first. In such cases, silence signals supreme confidence and dominance over the surrounding noise. Lastly, there is the silence that cultivates ambiguity. This kind of silence isn't meant for replies or oversight. It serves to keep everyone in a constant state of uncertainty. It's the most crafty form because it allows you to send multiple messages to different parties without being fully accountable to anyone. As Machiavelli once said, it is better to be feared than loved if one has to choose. This philosophy is deeply connected to intentional ambiguity, which grants power by making it difficult to discern your true intentions. A politician who states, "All options remain on the table," isn't signaling indecision, but rather keeping strategic flexibility open. Similarly, a negotiator who avoids taking a firm stance early allows themselves the freedom to adjust their offer or pull back without prior obligation. A leader who communicates their vision in a flexible manner doesn't get bogged down in details. Instead, they ensure the freedom to act without being bound by the constraints of certainty. This is not avoidance. It is the art of managing possibilities. While these three forms of silence are tactical instruments in the field, there is an additional layer, just as crucial: the profound psychological effect silence has on others. Silence does not merely leave unsaid what is unspoken, but it also brings to the surface thoughts and concerns buried in others' minds. Machiavelli's genius shines through in his understanding of how both words and their absence impact people's souls. He grasped how silence could confuse, instruct, and dominate without uttering a single word. Let's explore the influence of silence through three compelling psychological phenomena. The first is how silence creates a space for projection. When you remain quiet during a critical moment, the other person tends to fill that silence with their own assumptions. Are you upset? Have you uncovered something? Are you preparing an unexpected response? This is known as projection in psychology, where an individual projects their own fears, desires, or expectations onto the quiet void. Machiavelli recognized this dynamic when he noted that people are often driven by their immediate desires, making them vulnerable to manipulation by those who understand how to take advantage of such tendencies. Silence in these situations becomes a reflection of what lies beneath the surface, without a word being spoken. This is why seasoned investigators use silence with suspects. Rather than asking more questions, they remain quiet, prompting the accused to break the silence and inadvertently divulge information. The discomfort created by silence compels many to reveal things they weren't asked about. The second aspect is how silence asserts control in communication dynamics. The person who speaks the most can seem as though they are seeking approval or validation, while someone who is quiet or speaks only after others gives the impression of a figure in authority rather than a subordinate. This aligns with Machiavelli's advice that it's better to be feared than loved, highlighting how silence can wield an unseen power that commands respect. This is why job candidates who ask more questions than they share about themselves are often perceived as more composed and insightful. It also explains why the quiet person in meetings who speaks briefly often commands more attention than the one who dominates the conversation. Similarly, the person who remains silent during disagreements often appears more measured and in control compared to the one who argues passionately and dilutes the impact of their words. In each of these instances, silence plays a key role in shifting the balance of power. Thirdly, silence cultivates intrigue, and intrigue in turn breeds influence. As Machiavelli once observed, people judge more by what they see than what they understand. In simpler terms, the unseen holds more allure. When someone lays bare all their thoughts and intentions, they strip themselves of mystery, becoming just another face in the crowd. But those who hold back, who offer results without full disclosure, naturally elevate their presence. Their mystique enhances how others perceive them. Take leadership as an example. A leader who over-explains loses the aura of distinction. They reduce themselves to something dissectable, someone others can measure up against or even surpass. On the other hand, a leader who keeps their methods under wraps but delivers outcomes is often admired more. Even if they operate like everyone else, their silence casts a shadow of respect. Here, silence becomes more than just a behavioral choice. It's a protective force, a kind of mental armor. Now contrast this with modern expectations, where transparency is celebrated as a moral ideal and silence is often misunderstood as weakness, doubt, or deception. We're constantly told to speak your truth, be authentic, and never hold back. But what if withholding strategically is a more effective path? Machiavelli warned that public declarations tie you to outdated positions. A promise made yesterday may need to be broken today, he suggested. Leaders often fall into the trap of committing to early statements, only to find that circumstances have shifted. Yet because of their previous openness, they can't retreat without damaging their credibility. This is the essence of what we might call the trap of transparency. The tendency to speak before the full picture is clear, to share more than is necessary, or to explain when silence would be wiser. To speak too soon or without need is to give away leverage. It is a voluntary forfeiture of influence, something Machiavelli considered a strategic error in communication. How to master silence. Strategic silence is not a call for isolation or complete secrecy, but rather a mental discipline that requires conscious training and can be easily applied in daily life. The first stage, excel with information before the situation. Before expressing your opinion in any meeting, dialogue, or negotiation, ask more than you say. Understand what is not said, not just what is said. As Machiavelli said, The fox sees traps, and the lion terrifies wolves. The fox does not talk much, but observes. The second stage, maintain ambiguity when necessary. When there is no need for specificity, do not rush into detail. This does not mean being intentionally vague, but rather leaving a smart distance that allows you to maneuver later without appearing contradictory or retreating in leadership. This translates into announcing the vision without getting involved in the complexity of executive details that may change in relationships. It may mean expressing commitment to principles, not specific paths. Third, train yourself to tolerate moments of silence. Silence in conversation confuses most people. Many feel anxious about the emptiness, so they fill it with unnecessary words, apologies, or concessions. But you know, to be silent and relax your nerves in this silence in negotiation. Be silent after presenting your offer in a dispute. Listen until the end, then think before you respond. In leadership, announce your decision and let it work without justifying it. In conclusion, silence is the voice that is not heard but frightens. The art of silence, as formulated by Machiavelli, does not mean being mysterious all the time. Rather, it means knowing when to speak, why to speak, and when silence is the best. The professionals in this art do not appear as if they are cheating or concealing, but rather as masters of the art of concealment, timing, and influence in a world where everyone reveals their cards. Whoever keeps some of them rules the game. They do not shout to win, they do not explain to justify, and they do not overexpress to make it clear that they know that at some moments, silence alone wins the battle. Let your motto be, talk less, observe more, and do more, and let your results speak for you. If you like the video, feel free to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. And we'll see you in the next one.